once in the vigil of a deathless gaze. These graves had marked her giant downward plunge. The wide and prone leap of a Godhead's fall. Our life is a holocaust of the supreme. The great world mother, by her sacrifice, has made her soul the body of our state.
Good morning, everyone. We're reading in Book 2. We're starting Book 2, and we're in Canto 1. On page 98 at the top. So in the last book, we were introduced a little bit to Savitri and mostly to her father, King Asopati. And we went through several cantos of his yoga, the yoga of the king, and the secret knowledge that he had acquired in the course of his yoga. Just in the last section of Canto 5 of Book 1, Sri Aurobindo gives us a little bit of a preview of a hierarchy of worlds which comes into the view, into the vision of King Asopati. So that last section gives a preview of that. And now in Canto 1, we're given another kind of general overall look at this hierarchy of worlds. So the canto is called the World-Stair. So he sees a whole series of worlds as if piled up on top of each other from the lowest base in the inconscient, going all the way up to the ethereal spirit. And there's many, many levels of this. And they all come into his view at once. So he's able to more or less see this whole hierarchy of worlds in a single view. And not only see them, but feel them, experience them, feel as if he's united with them, as if they're part of his being. So I'll just read a short passage from the beginning of the canto on page 95 towards the end. Sri Aurobindo says, and now this is also Asopati. He's experiencing this. Says, the eternal stillness saw in unmoved joy his universal power at work display in plots of pain and dramas of delight, the wonder and beauty of her will to be. All, even pain, was the soul's pleasure here. Here all experience was a single plan, the thousand-fold expression of the one. All came at once into his single view. Nothing escaped his vast intuitive sight. Nothing drew near he could not feel as kin. He was one spirit with that immensity. So now we can continue at the top of page 98. Perhaps Dhanalakshmi, would you? So Sri Aurobindo gives us an image of this pile of worlds appearing in his vision in a mystical barrage of dynamic life. A barrage is like this kind of vigorous expulsion of many things at one time. Like there's a barrage of artillery fire, many cannons or guns going off at one time. So in that light, he sees this high curved world pile, erect like a mountain chariot of the gods. It's an interesting combination of words. Mountain chariot. It's as if a chariot carrying the gods, but it's erect like a mountain. And as if motionless under an inscrutable sky. Inscrutable is kind of mysterious. And it climbs as if from matter's plinth. That's like the lowest base of something. And viewless base to a top as viewless. Carved sea of worlds, climbing with foam-maned waves to the supreme. It hoped to soar into the ineffable's reign, into the reign of the indescribable, to the divine. 100 levels raised it to the unknown. I think this image of these worlds yeah. So he seems to be referring to the fact that this is an inner experience, and these worlds are kind of contained within this view, this image that he has of them. Huh? Yes, I think so. Yes. different orbits. Yeah. Mm. Yeah, they're definitely organized in this hierarchy, and each, as you say, is distinct and unique in its own way. And they're arranged from matter all the way up to spirit and everything in between. Sri Aurobindo normally distinguishes, some of the basic levels like matter, the vital, the mind, and maybe, higher levels of mind. But here he's saying, 100 levels. And so that's just, not exactly 100, but a big number. And so there are, even within, let's say, the vital world, there are many different levels within that vital world. Within the mind realm, there are many, many levels. Within the spiritual realm, there are many levels. But at this point, he's seeing it all kind of at once in an overall view. And as in this book, this, longest book in Savitri, he's going to go through canto by canto these different worlds. Right? You have a so it towered up. Higher. Thank you. here Sri Aurobindo gives us some more characteristics of this hierarchy of worlds. In that first line, he says, infinity calls to it as it dreams and climbs. So there seems to be something from above that is also calling to it or assisting it in some way. And here it becomes, not just static, but kind of moving, as if it's aspiring, as if it's climbing up towards the divine, towards heaven. And at the top, he describes that it's mounting into great voiceless stillnesses. And it marries the earth to screened eternities. So it's also connecting the earth and matter to these heights of the spirit. Screened means hidden, as if behind a screen. And then, amid the many systems of the One, these worlds are like systems expressive of the One, made by an interpreting, creative joy. Alone, it points us to our journey back out of our long self-loss in nature's deeps. Deeps and depths. No difference, really. Planted on earth, it holds in it all realms. So its base is on earth, as it's planted here, climbing up, pointing to our journey back to the divine, to the spirit. It holds within it all realms, all the worlds. It is a brief compendium of the vast. It's a brief summary. Yeah, it consists of all those planes. A brief compendium of the vast. It suggests maybe that it's a kind of a brief expression of the infinite. Even all these worlds, this whole cosmic system, it's still not fully expressive of the one divine, the unmanifest, but it expresses something of it in a summary of it. Mm. I don't know. Because this seems to be more or less, to me, it seems like it's the universe, it's the whole cosmos, all the realms. I mean, it's not just physical worlds, it's also all the subtle worlds. So I don't know if there might be other universes independent of this. Different, like, dimensions or something. Always something more. Alone it points us to our journey back. As if this series of worlds, I think that alone points us back. Only that. It points us. I mean, I think the way that I look at it is that there is this unknown reality that's partially expressed in the universe. So if there's something beyond that wall, it's the unmanifest. That unmanifest, maybe holds more within itself that's unexpressed. Yeah, they are contained within the infinite. Yeah, my interpretation of it is that he's experiencing this in his inner vision, this vision of these worlds. It also, it's an experience of it. And in that sense, it's contained within his view or something. That's how I look at it, in a kind of a mundane way, that it's within his experience, his inner experience. whether these worlds are walled in from the infinite. That's one of the beauties of poetry. We can look at it, in different ways and see what it suggests to us. But this is the single stair to being's goal. That corresponds with Margaret's question about alone. This was the single stair to being's goal. Suggests that we actually have to climb this, or go through these worlds in some way. Yeah, that's the integral experience. Maybe we can continue. Sir, would you like to read? It is within. Yeah, that's where we left off. I marked it. That's where we left off. Thank you. these first lines here might help illuminate a little bit of what we were discussing about this innerness. And he's saying, this is a summary of the stages of the spirit, its copy of the cosmic hierarchies, refashioned in our secret air of self, a subtle pattern of the universe. And what this suggests to me is that this hierarchy of worlds, there's a kind of a cosmic level in which they exist, but they also exist within each of us. So in that sense, perhaps they are walled apart in its own innerness. They're kind of within our own being as well. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that, no. Well, I mean, this line, that next line, it is within, below, without, above. So it's within and without, above and below, everywhere around. Yeah. Yeah. And there are, I think, a lot of different ways of looking at that too. In one sense, there is this kind of, we have to go through this evolution, right? We have to first go through the worm stage, and then the animal stage, and get to the human stage, and then to the spiritual humanity. I mean, we have to evolve over many lifetimes. So that's one way. But then, within our own particular life, too, we need to kind of traverse these different realms. We need to develop our vital nature. We need to develop our mental nature. We need to develop these spiritual possibilities within us. And then maybe in sadhana also, then we have to go through these experiences of the inner worlds and climb this stair of experience, within ourselves, like Astapati is doing, or will do in the course of this book. So there are different ways, I think, of looking at that. But again, he's pointing to the fact that these different worlds that are also within us are calling and assisting us in our evolution, in our spiritual development. That they are influencing us from higher realms. Live in the material world, but there are these kind of higher vital. So it's due to these higher worlds that our earth matter's heavy dose awakens to think and feel and to react to joy. It models in us our diviner part, lifts mortal mind into a greater air, makes yearn this life of flesh to intangible aims, and links the body's death with immortality's call. The suggestive line, I don't know what to say about it, but it seems to be. You think it's referring to the Divine Mother? Well, she is this nature. I mean, she is the conscious force behind all of these worlds, for sure. Swoon. It's kind of, I think, like a deep sleep. Sleep. Unconsciousness. Yeah, it's a nice point, Margaret, I think, that, that we have all of these things within us. At our base, we have this inconscience from which we're growing, from which we're awakening. That in itself should give us some humility, because that is our base from which we're growing. And we labor, but our labor, would be futile if there weren't these higher realms there supporting us. No, we had a big debate about that last night. Where is her guess? I was thinking about it a little bit over the week too, because we had, like it could be a long discussion. And so what I think is, like Nitya says, there are different reasons, I think, for the capitalization. So one is that it's something divine, divine light. So then light, it comes from the divine, or she says from a very high realm. Okay, let me finish. And then another reason for capitalization is that it refers to a basic principle rather than, like a specific thing. Last time we were talking about space and time, which were capitalized. So, we look out into space, but that's a small s space. But when we talk about space as a principle of extension, then it's, kind of a capitalized thing. So those are, I think, two main reasons for capitalization. And then the third point that I also said last time, and I think is true, is that Sri Aurobindo is not 100% consistent in these things, and that we shouldn't kind of make, like a religion out of it, that it has to, it definitely is this and it definitely has to be that. There's some room for, I don't know, just that, for variation in his expressions. So here, well, this may be one of those examples of a kind of an inconsistency in some way. I mean, if he's capitalizing nature, but he's not capitalizing her. And yet it seems to be referring to the same. So this is kind of, I think, one of the examples that we can't always make too much of it. like it came up in some other work during the week that we were doing integral yoga. So, sometimes they're both capitalized. Sometimes integral is small and yoga is big. I don't know if it's sometimes the other way around, but in different places you'll find these variations. Mm-hmm. So I think he explains this a little bit more as we go on. So, and we're also getting into these next lines. So, Naren, maybe you could continue. Yeah, I think the delight of existence is fundamental to it all. Naren? Thank you. So again, I think the main point is that the presence of these worlds, these higher worlds, makes possible our evolutionary ascent, our development into the spirit. And that, in a sense, that, well, they influence us and they're also calling us up towards their higher levels. Otherwise, we would be more or less tied to this material base. We couldn't go very far. So this higher scheme of being is our cause and holds the key to our ascending fate. It calls out of our dense mortality the conscious spirit nursed in matter's house. Superfluity is a kind of an excess, overflowing, oversupply. So these worlds, I mean, they're so excessive, they're so vast and so many and so high and, splendid and divine. So all of that, they contain all the possibilities for our ascent, for our development. Yeah, I wouldn't say excessive, but I would say full. Like a great amount. Yeah, higher evolution is still to come. More than man, a higher being shall be evolved here on earth. What do you say? Not man bear, the earth will bear. earth bore thinking man, and more than man shall bear. So it's the earth will bear more. Bring forth. Bring forth. More than man shall come, a higher being. Superman. And he says it quite categorically here. And he mentions in this next sentence the living symbol of these conscious planes, its influences, and Godheads of the unseen. It suggests to me the influences coming from these higher planes on us, but also symbols of those planes' powers are these Godheads. There are these beings and Godheads of these worlds also having an effect on us. And then something else, its unthought logic of reality's acts, arisen from the unspoken truth in things, have fixed our inner life's slow scale degrees. So there's something kind of automatic about the process. I mean, also that it's just that this force, this potential is all inherent within matter. And it just naturally comes out. Less of a cause and effect relationship, but just its natural way of being because of what it is. Miss, in the back, would you like to read? I think we're at its steps. Thank you. That's wonderful. I'd like to step back one line. Have fixed our inner life's slow-scaled degrees. I like this term, slow-scaled. Somehow it suggests, our development needs to go step by step, and it's not so simple just to jump over lots of steps and kind of get done with it. It takes time, takes work, effort, patience, perseverance. But then he begins to refer to this development, retracing the steps of the involution, of the descent of spirit towards matter. It also has descended step by step. And in our return, in our evolution, we also have to kind of go step by step. So this is the ladder of delivering ascent, and rungs that nature climbs to deity. And then he describes this involution. Once in the vigil of a deathless gaze, these grades had marked her giant downward plunge, the wide and prone leap of a Godhead's fall. What is fall? Prone. Oh, prone leap. Yeah, kind of. When it's somewhat prone is to be lying flat. But yeah, it became, but what he's suggesting here, it didn't magically become. It became in this descent. No? I think she's kind of referring to kind of a second descent. There is one descent in which matter is created, the inconscient comes into being. That's one descent. Then there's another descent, the Divine Mother coming into that. You're referring to that second descent. Okay? Right. That's what he seems to me to be describing here, this step by step descent of the creation. Yeah, because that's what Nitya is referring to. Okay, there was a descent into matter. There was a descent, and matter was created. There was an inconscient base. There was all these worlds created, this whole hierarchy of worlds, and at the base was matter. But matter would be hopeless and forlorn forever if there weren't some spark of divinity that came into it to wake it up. And this is the story that Mother tells about this descent of the divine love descending into matter to awaken it so that it could awaken and arise and evolve. So that's, in a way, a second descent, I'm calling it. Well, the thing is that these are stories that help us understand. And I mean, the divine is timeless and we live in time. So we like to say, okay, when did that happen? And when did this happen? But for our understanding, we can look at it that way and it may help us make sense of things. But always these ideas and mental images and all of these things are, relative. In the next reading, you mean? Okay, maybe B could quickly read the next. Could you read the next? We're getting a little late. Our Earth. Thank you. An idol of self is our mortality. And an idol is a representation, a form or appearance, visible but without substance. So our mortal life is a representation of the self, of the higher self. Um, but I looked up Holocaust in the dictionary. It said a sacrifice consumed by fire. So when you throw the sacrifice, something into the fire, as they did, the Vedic rishis would do. So that's the kind of a sense of the term. So it has that connotation of a fire, something getting burnt. I mean, there is also a kind of a general significance of it, of a thorough destruction. Now, whether Sri Aurobindo is thinking about the Holocaust of the Jews, I don't know, maybe, but it seems to me this idea of a kind of a sacrifice and a kind of a whole-scale loss, those kind of connotations for me ring more, powerfully here in this context. She's sacrificed her light, her power, her, divinity, and became this dense material form, unconscious, struggling, painful, all of these things that, we have here. She accepted this. She has made her soul the body of our state, accepting sorrow and unconsciousness. Divinity's lapse from its own splendors wove the many-patterned ground of all that we are. An idol of self is our mortality. Or is it? Our life is just kind of almost an empty image of her, like an idol. And here he's emphasizing that due to her descent into this matter, that that there are all these kind of rich possibilities within this matter. Her power is packed with the stuff of greater worlds. So our material world is packed with all these greater possibilities of all these hierarchy of worlds that she has gone through in the descent. And he's talking about our earth as a fragment and residue of her descent. And it's steeped in their color lusters, dimmed by her brows. Contains all these wonderful possibilities, but they're kind of still asleep. An atavism of higher births is hers. An atavism is kind of a form or something that appears in an organism from long back ancestry, maybe many generations back. Some characteristic comes out in a person. So within us too are these greater possibilities may come out again. Her sleep is stirred by their buried memories, recalling the lost spheres from which they fell. Unsatisfied forces in her bosom move. They are partners of her greater growing faith and her return to immortality. They consent to share her doom of birth and death. They kindle partial gleams of the all and drive her blind, laborious spirit to compose a meager image of the mighty whole. So that is the great hopefulness of Sri Aurobindo's message. All possibilities of the divine are inherent in our being and will surely emerge. Is it what? Rebirth? I don't take it that way. It's just I sense that there are these things within us that have a connection with these higher worlds. You know, like we're connected with them, and so normally we're engrossed in the outer. But if we turn within a little bit, we feel this inner connection with the higher divine. Okay, I think we pause there for today. We have a little music. Okay.
once in the vigil of a deathless gaze, these grades had marked her giant downward plunge. The wide and prone leap of a Godhead's fall. Our life is a holocaust of the supreme. The great world mother, by her sacrifice, has made her soul the body of our state.
Thanks to Sri Aurobindo.